when you're creating a goal, like what makes it uncomfortable for you to actually say it to somebody? Like I want to like say like, hey, like, yo, Angela, this is what I'm going to do. And I want almost inside to be like, Angela, be like, what are you, absolutely nuts? Like, hey, I want to have this business, but I only want to spend this amount of time doing it or something like that. And then when it's like, oh, it's kind of like scares you to put it out there. That's where I believe like you're on track. You're on track of creating the right goal. And then it's breaking it down to like, hey, what's, when do I want to accomplish this by? So then what are the things that I need to do to get there?
Today we're talking about goals. It's going to be short, sweet, to the point, but yeah, it could be like, stuff to us that's like very, very, I don't know, familiar, but for most people, hopefully you can get a lot of value from this. So let's talk about when setting goals, right? The first thing I want to talk about is like everybody has a goal, right? Well, not everybody. Like I've talked to a lot of people, people that are close to me, and I'm asking like, what's your goal? Like, oh, they're just very vague goals, right? Like, I want to have a nice house.
I don't know. So that's a really good way to start. It's like, oh, everybody sets goals. And I don't think that's the case. I think people set ideas of something that they would like to accomplish.
Yeah.
But then don't do anything else to get there. And there's that saying that a goal without a plan is just a dream.
Right.
And that's a lot of what people do. They're like, oh, I would like to accomplish this thing. I would like to have this thing. I would like to be this person, and then do nothing that goes with it. And it's not because they just don't know. It's really easy to put say I want to accomplish something, to putting it out there to a degree, but then it's what actions come down to it. So I think when we're talking about goals, it's a lot of people might have some ideas. I think sometimes even with those people that have what that's like would be an outcome goal too. It's important to differentiate. It's like, hey, we want to get clear on what this goal is, this big goal. This outcome goal generally is like, I want to accomplish this thing. I want to have this thing. I want to be this person. Right. That's kind of like an end goal. But then there's process goals that make that up. So it's what are the actions I'm going to take on a yearly, monthly, weekly, daily basis to then accomplish that goal. And I definitely think the process goals where a lot of people miss out on. It's like, what am I going to do to ensure that I actually hit this goal? So, and I also think too, when we're talking like everybody has goals, I think one of the challenges I would love to give people, and we do this like when we're doing our franchising or even when we're like talking to like new clients, it's set up a bigger, scarier goal.
Right.
Like accomplish something bigger.
Right.
But that's kind of like, I don't know, just like how I would kind of like kick it off when it comes to this. Hey, I don't think everybody has goals. I think some people might have some ideas, maybe some dreams.
I like that. They are ideas more than goals.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, how do we take those ideas, turn them into actually goals, and then accomplish them is I think the secret and the trick that we're going to want to try and cover today.
Right. So like if you're starting out, right, and you need to set a target. It's like playing darts or shooting a bow and arrow or shooting a basketball, right? And it's like shooting a basketball with a blindfold on. Like how many people in here can set the free throw line with a blindfold on? I'll spin you in a circle, and how many free throws are you going to hit? Most likely 0, right? You don't know if the rim's this way, that way, that way, that way. So like the first thing is just like, what is your goal? Like visualizing your goal. And I've talked to a few people close to me, and they've told me, "Hey, my goal is to, I want to work here. I want to live here." And it's like super, super vague. Like, what does that mean? I want to have a good job and a family. Like, it's super, super vague. So, like, some people think that working at or Wawa or a convenience store is a good job. So, like, how do you know if you've ever arrived? How do you know if you've reached your goal, right? Or you want to have a nice house, like. What is a nice house? Does a nice house cost $10,000 or does it cost $10 million? Like it's very, very vague and you don't have a specific goal. And so I think the first thing you start off with is setting an actual goal. And I'm going to give you a few steps here to set a goal, right? What's going to make it easy is if you have a framework, right? So I think like in order to be successful, you need like some kind of framework, right? So, and the framework here is, and if you can see our screen right here, boom, I'm just going to like pop it dead smack in the middle right here, is SMART, right? So the first thing you're going to see on SMART is specific, right? So your goals have to be specific. Make your goals specific and narrow for more effective planning. So what does that mean, right? So Bob, let's talk about specific. So if somebody says like, I want to have a good family. I want to have a nice house. I want to have a nice job. How would you make that specific?
Well, you have to, and I think like as I was listening to you talk, one of the things going back to that is like you have to have a clear definition of what your goal is. So like, and this could even go back to if you have a bigger picture, you can look at like a vision. And one of the things that they talk about, and I think it's traction or scaling up, or it's actually might be both, but it's like what's your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. So what is something that's going to be 10 years down the road that's going to be like it scares you to say out loud because then you can kind of reverse engineer that. Because if you're like, hey, I want to have a nice house, or hey, I want to have a big house, or hey, I want to make a lot of money. You have to get specific on what that is because let's say you do accomplish it, but you didn't actually know what it was in the beginning. Well, chances are, if you actually accomplishing it, if you haven't clearly defined it, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Like it almost when you're creating a specific goal, you have to like see it, feel it, be able to deeply visualize it, what it's going to taste like, smell like, feel like when you're in there. And then, because there is a lot of stuff like within the emotion of the body, how you feel, it will help you actually accomplish it. But you have to be there because then let's say you do come close to accomplishing it, you're just going to push that goalpost back.
Right.
And you're going to create this vicious cycle that especially entrepreneurs fall into, but probably just anybody, where they never become satisfied with what they're looking to accomplish or with the things they do accomplish actually. So it's like, hey, I just built this great business, but it's not enough because they haven't defined what that actually means to them. So I think getting like using the SMART goals, but getting specific on it in particular in the beginning, that allows you to then know like, hey, when I do accomplish something, like this is something that I can truly celebrate or that I've actually done it, which just like, I think this helps you create more accomplishments in the future because success begets success. Right. But if you can never get success, you could at one point, almost at a deeper level, you'll never be happy because you've never clearly defined your goals. So you can truly never actually accomplish
How do you know if you hit it, right? Like, how do you know if you hit it? Like, I want to have a nice house. Like, is this a nice house? Or like, so you got to be very specific. So running through like, so if you haven't set a goal in your life, you need to set a goal because you're literally like a leaf blowing around in the wind, right? You need to have some direction. Mm-hmm. So we're starting with this acronym, SMART goals, right? You can Google this, you can look it up. We have it on the screen here, but it starts with S, specific. The second is measurable. The third is attainable. R is relevant. And T is time-based. So SMART goals. So we just talked about specific, right? Having a nice house or a good job is not a specific goal. Having a job at the University of Penn as a neurosurgeon making $382,000 a year and working 36 hours a week and vacationing 4 or 5 times, that's a specific goal. Right? It's a very, very specific goal. I want a nice house. What is a nice house? I want a house in Gladwin. I want 5 bedrooms. I want 6,000 square feet. I want an in-the-ground pool. I want blah, 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 and I want it to cost $4.2 million, right? Like, that's specific.
Gladwin is just so expensive because, like, when you're saying that, I was like, that's actually the price of a home like that in Gladwin, which is just ridiculous.
Dude, I mean, my house, I don't even believe my house cost them. Like, it was just like a nice house growing up. Like, I thought my house would be like a $500,000 to $700,000 house growing up, and it's not. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
But so you just have to get super, super specific in exactly what that looks like, right? And the second one is measurable, right? Define what evidence will prove you're making progress and reevaluate when necessary. And then Bob kind of brought this up, right? And I think that there's like an outcome, right? Your goal is an outcome, but there's also I don't know how to define it. Yeah, it's like milestones, right? Let's call them milestones, right? So measurable is like milestones. So like what milestones along the way? Like, hey, I want to make $382,000 a year. Your first milestone is $100,000. Your next milestone is $200,000. And you have to like measure your progress towards the goal through milestones, right? So it's got to be measurable, right? Like, what do I need down payment to get this house? I need, $800,000. I need $1 million to put down on the house. Cool. You know that's measurable. I have $380,000 in my account. I'm not there yet, but I know if I have $620,000 in my account, there's my $1 million, right? So it's measurable. Yeah. You can measure along the way the progress that you're making. Your job, you know what you're making per year, and you know what you're looking to make per year, right? So it's measurable. Hey, I hit my milestone of $100,000, but I'm not at 382 yet. I hit my milestone of $200,000. Celebrate it. So it's measurable. You have to make sure your goals are measurable. And then the next one's attainable, right? Make sure you can reasonably accomplish your goal. If I set out today and, I worked making $50,000 a year, and I say within 1 year, I want to make $1 billion. You're setting yourself up for failure. Like, that's not really, can it happen? Yeah. did you just download The Secret and watch it and believe that you're just going to think about a Ferrari and it's going to pop up in your driveway? It's like the person that says like you can make $1 million with 30 minutes a day, just follow this program. And you're like, oh, that helps me hit my goal. So like the goal has to be attainable, right? Like, so you're going to see a bunch of like shiny objects and you're going to say, oh, this person's going to tell me I'm going to make $1 million in a week. And like, that's not attainable, right? So like, don't base your goals off of all this woo-woo, The Secret thing, or this person telling you can sell this course, it takes 5 minutes and you're going to be a billionaire in a month. That just doesn't happen. So like when you set your goals, they have to be attainable, right? Like if you're currently making 6 figures right now, getting to 250 might be a legitimate goal, an attainable goal, and something realistic. And when you talked about big, hairy, audacious goals, right? Yeah, you want to set them above where you're at, and you'll and we'll tie in obviously how that's probably worked in you and my lives, but you're if you set that goal, you'll figure out how to make that. Like I worked at a car dealership and I set my goal at making a certain amount of money per year. I couldn't make that at a car dealership, but I found ways to do it. I ended up getting a gym and I ended up starting another business, and now I make what I wanted to make, right? But at the time I didn't know, like my goal was like, I'm like, how the heck am I going to be able to do this?
Yeah.
But if you put it in there, your mind will find out and your subconscious will find out how to make it happen. And not that it's just going to come to you, right? Like The Secret, but you'll prime yourself to take advantage of opportunities when they come across, because you know this is where you want to go. So when you see those opportunities, you'll be able to jump on them and realize that is an opportunity. That's my goal. This is something that could possibly take me there. And you're always going to be on the lookout. It's like when you see a new car, right? You've never seen that car before, and I show you a model, and all of a sudden you drive to Starbucks and you see 15 of those models, and you're like, I've never even noticed that car existed before. It's just because you're priming your mind and your subconscious to look for that thing. So you have to give yourself the goal to be able to take advantage and see the opportunities when they come across, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think, so like going back to having those big goals, I think the reason with that for me is a lot of people, especially when they're maybe just getting started. So I think about a framework of somebody's just getting started. They don't know what they're really capable of. They don't know what they can truly accomplish. Like going back to one of our earlier conversations, you're like, I didn't know that you could do, make this amount of money, have this amount of impact in this short period of time, like using the internet, but you didn't know at the time. So at first it's like, we want to so when I started my gym, my goal was just essentially, if I'm talking financially, I was like, hey, I want to make 100 grand. It was cool. Then I made 100 grand. So I was like, hey, I want to make 100. I want to, make 100 grand for the business. Then I want to take home 100 grand for the year. Then it was like, I want to take home 100 grand in a month. So each time I accomplished those things, then it just created something bigger. So, but what allowed me to go from making 100 grand a year to then taking home 100 grand a month was I started setting up these just gigantic goals that, hey, this is what I'm going to accomplish in the next 5 to 10 years. And then I would just bring it back to, if I want to accomplish that, these are the things that I need to do in order. Right. So I guess I probably use SMART goals in a sense of like they're specific and there's a time frame. I've never truly actually like broken down like that. I go, here's my goal that I want to accomplish. Here's what I need to do. And then I just chunk it down to like, this is what needs to happen in 12 weeks. And I only focus on 12-week blocks for the most part. I have an idea of like, here's this big vision. Here's this big goal that I want to accomplish. And then here's like, I have an understanding of these are the things that I'm going to need to do in order to get there. And then like specifically, this is what I need to do over the next 12 weeks. These are the actions that I need to take in order to get there. Like, hey, if I want to, I don't know, man. I can't really relate to like somebody wanting to get a job and make more money. So like, I'm not even going to touch on that because like, I just don't think about getting a job. It's just not something like speak to. If that's your goal, sweet. Probably somebody else that can better help you with that. Totally cool. It's not a life that I like and encourage somebody to live because it's just a boring fucking life. Right. So like, if I want to say, hey, any goal that I want to accomplish, like I'm in control of that. And I do that also, like a bigger part to that too, is like a way that I view life now is my biggest goal overall is, and I heard this actually yesterday and it sums it up even better than the original way I was looking at it, is like my biggest goal is to be a son of God. Like I know that bringing in some, Christianity or some religion, all that good stuff, whatever. But like, that's the framework of how I overall, like the goal of my life is to take those actions and live in that kind of way. And then as a result of having that faith and that belief, then it's going to allow me to accomplish my other goals in my life, whether it's my business goals, my family goals, my personal goals. Right. But when it comes to like, I'm not even interested in talking about how can somebody get a better job, because that bores the fuck out of me. How can somebody create this life that is absolute? But how can I'm in control? How can I create this life? How can I create this infinite amount of income that I can do? Like that's exciting to me.
Right.
So
But the job can be the vehicle that takes you there, right? Like I use
no,
the
I don't even
job
believe
to
that.
take the money. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done it. So I've used a
That's
job
you.
to
Yeah.
take the money to
Yeah.
hop into a
Yeah.
business, right? Like, so like if you're in a job right now, like we're not saying like that's the wrong thing. Like you can use that money, invest it wisely, hop out, start your own thing. Like if you saved up X amount of dollars, you find what you want to do and you go do it. Like I've done that, but it's not like what Bob's saying is like, you know, if you just started a job, you know, you're just going to get enough to get by, and 50,000 and 75,000 and 100,000 and you'll never really get anywhere like that. Like I had to live extremely frugal while I was at my job to be able to afford buying a gym. But what you just touched on too is like, I'm just going to jump into the next one, which R is relevant. So we have specific, measurable, attainable, and relevant. And relevant, like your goals should ideally align with your values, right? Or like who you are. And then you said like you want to be a son of God, right? And like me, on the other hand, I just want to be a son of anarchy, right? So like tatted out so I definitely sold my bike when I had kids. My wife gave me the ultimate.
I need to
get
my Harleys. I need to get my Harleys from out by you out to Montana. So live that life of
for those of you at home. It's literally that's across the entire country. But let's talk about relevant, right? Like your goals need to align with you know, who you are, right? You want to be a son of God. So like, I'm sure your goal is not going to include living on a yacht, you know, doing drugs with prostitutes and, you know, drinking every night and, you know, staying up for 6 weeks at a time. Like that goal might align with somebody like, what's his name? Blitzerin. It might have aligned with him, but not with you, right? Because it's got to fit your core values and who you are. And that goal, because it can't feel like there's friction between you and that goal.
Yeah, and I think that's like if that's somebody's desire, by the way, to like work that job in corporate gig, like that's totally cool. I'm just talking like I don't have experience in that, so I can't touch them. So it's like you can because you have. Like, so if that's what makes somebody happy, heck yeah. Because you and I have talked about this. Like when you're setting up goals, set up goals for yourself.
Yeah.
Not goals that like you're doing it because somebody else is doing or anything like that. Like set it up like what's this life that you want to design? That makes you happy, and then you're able to live the life of your desires. So if that involves like working a job and then growing in that job, that's awesome. I can't speak on it because that's not a life that I like or know of. So like, I'm not going to be the one that can help you. But find somebody that totally can. You know, even like when I started my business, I just burned all the ships. Like that's a belief of mine when you're going into business is to burn all the ships and go all in. Now I know we're getting a little tied off on like goals, but if you're going to accomplish something, like you need to go all in on it. Like you can't just be like, I kind of like to accomplish this. It's like, I'm going to accomplish this. So having that vision and that belief and creating, like some people create like vision boards, but like seeing it, going out there, like you have to truly believe it. If you can see it, you can believe it on the inside, then most likely I believe that you're going to accomplish it in time as long as you take those actions. Yeah, making it relevant to like where you are in your current life. And just being like, hey, if I want to make $1 million, but right now my business is making $100,000. Okay, cool. What do I have to do to get to $1 million? And and you can even, instead of planning on, like, you could say, hey, I'm going to go from 100K to $1 million in my business. Like for a gym owner, the likelihood of accomplishing in 1 year is probably very slim unless you just
so the level so that goes back to attainable. Make sure your goal's attainable. But if you have that goal of making $1 million a year and you have a gym producing $100,000 a year, you can get that gym to 250, and you can take that money and invest in like real estate or passive things or open up a second location, right? So if you give your subconscious that goal, your decisions, if you give yourself the right goal, your decisions will be made based upon your goal. So you'll be able to, you know, see things when they come across your table or take advantage of them or know that's the right decision because you know where you're headed.
It's a dream versus a goal.
Right.
Like, and this is like, it's, hey, I want to have a gym, you know, that does $500K a year where I'm like 50% profit margin. But then you do absolutely nothing if your business is currently at $100,000 to get to that $500K. So it's like, I have to know, like, here's my goal. This is what I want to accomplish. And then boom, what are the steps that I need to do at a time in order to get there? I think it really just comes down to that. Like, it's just like, what are the daily actions that you're taking to accomplish your goal? Like, and if you know exactly what you want to accomplish, and then you actually go like, these are the things that I need to do. And then you stick with them and you don't get distracted. Like, when those shiny objects come around, you slap them away. And you're like, no, this is what I'm doing because this is the line to like the outcome that I want to accomplish. And that's like, that is such a hard thing to do. It's like, it's so easy when you see opportunity everywhere, or you have like, or you're not actually concrete on what you want to do and accomplish, then it's easy to get just distracted and sidetracked. Like when I was growing Legion, and it was like, hey, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. And I would have people come up with ideas like, oh, let's do this, or let's do that. I'm like, nope, it has nothing to do with where we're trying to go. It's just going to get us distracted.
Right.
I'm not saying necessarily it's a bad idea, but it's not going to it's not going to create this outcome that we're already driving towards. So, sidetrack us or actually make us worse. And that's what like, I was talking, I can't remember who we were talking to last night, but it's like, when we're getting clear, when you have that like narrow focus, you're like, here's this goal. Like, you don't have to, service everybody. And I'll bring it back to gyms. Again, it's, you're going to grow a much bigger, better gym that's going to have a bigger impact if like you focus on just helping that one person and everything you do is around there. What hurts gyms is because they are capable of helping everybody, they try and help everybody. And as a result, they help nobody.
Right.
Because they're not getting exactly clear on, so like, oh, and like I can help this athlete and I can help this person. Where it's like, no, just like if you're just like, I'm gonna help you lose weight and create transformations, and that's all you did, and if an athlete came to you, you're like, hey, I can totally help you, but I'm not gonna be the best fit. You should go over to this gym over there. Like that's gonna help you hit your goals faster,
right?
Because you're gonna get rid of the distractions. So I think when it comes to goals, I think over time, like my goals started small because I didn't know what was actually a reality out there. I didn't know what somebody is truly capable of. I never really even gave it that deep thought. So get a little woo with yourself, dig in, find out this what actually like when you're creating a goal, like what makes it uncomfortable for you to actually say it to somebody. Like I want to like say like, hey, like, yo, Angela, this is what I'm going to do. And I want almost inside to be like, Angela, be like, what are you, absolutely nuts? Like, hey, I want to have this business, but I only want to spend this amount of time doing it or something like that. And then when it's like, oh, it's kind of like scares you to put it out there. That's where I believe like you're on track. You're on track of creating the right goal. And then it's breaking it down to like, hey, when do I want to accomplish this by? So then what are the things that I need to do to get there? And then once you figure that out and get clear, and these things can evolve and change, but it's like, boom, I'm just going to do these things. I'm just going to do it. Like if I want to grow my gym, I want to add 20K per month to my gym profit. I know that I need to add X, like 1 to 2, people a day. And I need to sell them into this kind of ticket or whatever. And I need to make sure that I'm keeping my clients. So like what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 1 to 2 hours a day making 100, 200, 300 phone calls to all my leads and getting them an appointment, finding out their problem, solving their problem, selling them into my program. And then when they're in there, I'm going to just blow them away by just providing such an amazing experience that they don't want to leave and they want to refer all their friends. And that's all I'm going to do. And that's it. I'm just going to do that day in and day out, week in, week out, month in and month out, year after year after year. And if you do that, you don't get distracted. Like you're going to eventually hit your goal. So.
Yeah. The last thing too, we'll go over time base in a second, but yeah, I agree with you. I have a different philosophy. I keep my goals to myself. I don't want anybody hearing them or giving me any input on them. I never I keep my goals super, super secret. So nobody's ever heard my goals, but yeah,
that's
I agree with everything.
I used to be like that. And I think that's like, why do you think you do that? Like, why?
Because I don't want anybody putting any bit of doubt in my mind. I don't want anybody poisoning what I have. I know I'm going to achieve it. I feel I'm going to achieve it. And like, I don't need anybody else's input.
Do you write it down though?
Oh, it's written down.
I have. So you put it out.
I'll read you my goal for 2020, and it's literally true today. Like from what I'm. Oh well, I don't want to read because I want people to know personally what I make. But I literally make within $100,000 a year of what I wrote down on that paper.
Yeah, but I don't. But I think you have told me your goals over the years. So I'm not saying you tell it to everybody. Like that's one thing I agree. But like you have concrete goals.
Yeah, like my goal in business. Like I want to sell for. Like I want to sell for this amount, or I want to make this much, but like you don't know like every single goal I have, right? Like what I want my bank account balance to be, what I want this, right? Like you're right. I do put some of it out there, but I don't like share everything and like what I want for my family and what I want, yada yada yada. So
I'm the same way. Like I don't share like every little concrete thing, but I do sometimes, and that's like I do think it is important to put some or if not a lot of it out there to people that you trust, because also first off, if somebody's going to put doubt in your mind, get them out of your circle.
Right.
Don't even spend time with them because that's a good way to like, cool. Oh, like you're not. How are you going to do that? You're not going to accomplish that. Hey, cool. Thank you so much. It's been fun spending time with you, but I'm not going to.
I share my goals with people that I know that understand them and won't put doubt in my mind. That's right. I guard them very, very, very tightly.
Like I'll share my goals with you because I know you're not going to put doubt in it. You're going to put doubt in like, why is that it? Why is that all you're trying to do?
Right.
You know, so like putting it out there, but I think it is important to share it with people that are important, because I'm sure Alina knows your goals. So that's important because you're a team. And Mishi doesn't know like maybe all the small business ones, but maybe the outcome of like what you want for the family.
I've actually never, ironically, I've never shared them.
Oh, really? I think you should, because Alina would be like, let's go. We're going to get there. You quit effing around, Angelo. Do this thing.
It's like, funny. I move in silence, man. Like just wake up and you find out what this is.
And I do agree that that's important and that it should be done, because I think a lot of people, like, they'll say they want to do these things, but then they don't take the action. But just putting it out there like makes them feel good. So you have to like then do those. And I love it. Like, do it in silence is great. I do like to share my goals with people that I know that are going to help me like keep accountable. And that's like me. It's a very, very small circle of people. But like by putting it down, like, you know, because I was the same way when I was growing Legion. It was just head down, get to work. I didn't really share my goals with a lot of people. Then when I started sharing it with like my core team, like we started hitting every single thing.
But that was your business goals, right? That was like one. That was like your goals that are relevant, and then they need to know those to hit them.
Yeah. Well, then personal goals, and I think that's one of the problems that I did, is I didn't share a lot of like my personal goals with like my circle a lot of times, because they would have held me accountable, because they held me accountable on the other stuff that I wanted to do. Right. So I think you don't have to share everything. You obviously got to like, I love like the idea of working in silence, but I think having those people that are going to keep you accountable, where it's like, hey, you said you were going to, you know, have this much invested. Have you done it? Why haven't you? What are you waiting for? What's holding you back?
100%. There's definitely something to be said about that. There's definitely something, but there's also something to be said about like knowing your goals intrinsically, and like every morning reciting them and every night reciting them, and knowing what you're going to do and where you're going to get. And one day, you know, Alina wakes up and says, wow, I can go buy whatever the fuck I want to. Holy shit, how did this happen? I'm like, motherfucker, it was me reading my goals every single day. I didn't share them with you.
Yeah.
Like, and it just happened. And it's like, well, how did this happen? It's like, well, I just don't want anybody to be like, that's crazy. I don't think you'll be there. Or like, wow, that sounds nuts. Or even like, not even like unbeknownst to them, they may be like, oh, that's awesome. And like the way they look at you might be like, they don't believe me. And like that may make you think like, is this even feasible? Like, who am I to be able to deserve this? So like, my goals are my goals, and they're for me. And then like, you'll see me on the other end when I hit them. If I don't, you'll never know. I'll be close, so I'll be doing well. But like, I've guarded them. Like, but like, let's talk about goals. Like, let's get into time based before we run off too much. But like time based, like you have to have a specific time, right, to set your goals. So like by March 2025, right, by March 2023, by the end of 2026, I want to have X amount in my bank account. I have 2 businesses, this business and this. This makes this per month. This makes this per month. I also have 3 rental properties bringing me X, Y, and Z. Right. And then you have to like literally spell out by this time so you can measure it, because if your goals aren't time based, you can't measure them. I want to be a neurosurgeon working for University of Penn, making $382,000 a year by March 2025. Cool. And March 2023, if you're at 250, you're on your way. Right. Like you have to make sure it's measurable by time as well too. But like, I wanted to get the time thing out of the way because I wanted to talk about like going back to jobs. Right. And talking about relevant to who you are and what you want in life. And so we'll talk about a goal Alina had. And I don't even know if she knows, but her goal was to eventually be in a position at a pharmaceutical company, right? So leaving pharmacy school, she could have gotten a job at a pharmacy making, I don't know what they make at a pharmacy, like 150, starting off maybe like mid 100, 6 figures, right? She could have done well. And then she did that, hated it, and realized like there wasn't enough growth for like what she wanted to do, and she wanted to take a different lane. So her goal was to be somewhere in 2 to 3 years. And then she took a step back while probably, and she doesn't share this, but probably like all of her friends from pharmacy school were probably making double what she made. And she took a job for like, I think it was like 80 grand a year. And like literally took like a half pay cut and said, I'm going to do this so that eventually I can surpass where I was before and get to the level I want to be by this time, right? So like if you know what your goal is, right, you'll look at that decision. Like most people will be like, oh, wait, I want to make $1 million. That's not my goal. But if you look at every decision, be like, okay, if I take this job and I work to earn, and for young people out there that are just starting, you should work to learn at the beginning, not work to earn, right? If there's somebody who's a great marketer, I would literally just message them like, dude, I want to work for you for free for the next 6 months and learn everything you know, because in that 6 months, while your buddy's making $50,000 a year, he just made 25 grand, you just created $25 million of value in yourself over 6 months, right? So when you're young, you should work to learn, not work to earn. So she took a step back, took a gigantic pay cut, like a strike to her ego probably, but with the idea of here in 2 to 3 years, I will have surpassed where I could have been in that other position. And this decision allowed me to yada, 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 get to where I'm at today. So like, it's gotta be relevant to who you are and who you want to be in the future. Every decision you make, right? Like you have to have that goal in mind, because if it's just the goal is to make money and you don't know who you want to be, where you want to be and why, and have a specific on it, she'll just stay where she's at. And she might've done okay, but she's not going to be where she's at today. So like, even if you have a job and like that's your goal, and your goal is just to have a good job and have a good retirement and have a family and hang out on weekends, that's cool. Your goal is your goal. Nobody can tell you it's wrong, but you have to have a specific goal. You're never going to hit it. Wanted to share that for all the workers out there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's and that's exactly, it's like, you have to take the long-term into plan. I think that's where a lot of people don't look down the road enough, and they only look at like short-term gratification, not long-term gratification. What are the things I need to do? What are the skills I need to develop? Hey, I want to be this great leader. So what am I doing now to develop my skills as a leader? Like, and being realistic and looking at where am I now to where I want to be. And it's like, hey, I want to, if I have a business that is heavily dependent on like direct response in the beginning, it's like, what are the elements that make up direct response? So, hey, over the next 12 weeks, I'm going to really become learn copy and try and become a great copywriter. And this is the element I'm going to figure out. And then the next step, once I accomplish that, I can look at the next layer at that. And then so I think it's just chunking it down to putting yourself in the position to be the most successful in the long term. But in order to be confident and willing to take what some people might see as a step back, like she knew that it was going to allow her to get to her long-term goal. She had this vision that she was going to accomplish no matter what. Like, she was relentless with it. And, I think that, and, obviously a lot of times, like, I just speak, I think about entrepreneurs, and I think about business owners and gym owners and stuff like that, because I think that there's a layer for sure within business where you can get complacent. And I think for a lot of people that they just want a good job to get that white picket fence and live life. And that is your goal in life, that's freaking awesome. As you're saying, like, I can't relate to that, because I think people are capable of so much more. So like, if that's cool, if and there's tons of like, owning a business is not for everybody. There's a lot of risk that goes involved. There's a lot of liability, a lot of headaches, a lot of stress. So, if there's a lot of growth that you can have like in working for somebody else. So there's a lot of those great opportunities. So, but like, so even in there, like, there's ways that you can push yourself to like, hey, what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? What's that life look like? And if it is that like basic middle class, like, cool, like, that's awesome. I probably won't be able to relate enough and to understand that, but if that's your goal, sweet. But if your goal is to just be a super high performing individual, especially in business, like, cool, like, just understand that you're capable of doing so much more, and then start creating that process in order to get there. And then just give it time, because it's going to take you longer than you think, but faster than than it should, and like, people just don't give it enough time. And that's it. They give up like right before they're like about to hit, like, they're on the cusp, and they're just like, nothing's happening. And it's like, all right, I quit. Next thing, when it's like nothing, boom, it clicks. And then that's usually, we just have to, but if you have a clear, then you'll go through the suck for a long period of time, knowing that nothing else matters except for this outcome.
Right. So in summary, right, you need to have a goal to know where you're going. So let's summarize it with 2 tangible examples for people at home. So if you can look at this, you should be able to understand this, right? So grab your phone, whether it's an iPhone or Android, and tell your GPS or whoever your voice assistant, whether it's Siri or it's Google Assistant, tell them that you want to go there, and see where they give you directions to. Where's there? Mm-hmm. Then give them a specific address, and they will literally break it down to make a right here, and 0.2 miles, make a left there, go for 10 miles on this street at this mile per hour, and go right here, boom, boom. And in 26 minutes, you will be at your destination, right? So you need to give yourself a specific destination. Going there is vague, right? So you need to really iron out exactly what your goals are and where you want to go, or you'll never get there. And the second thing, you need to recite your goals. You need to know your goals better than you know yourself. Because I'm going to tell you a little bit about cameras. I have a variable ND filter on my camera, which makes it lighter or darker. So let me spin this. Can't see me, can you? I'm just a black dot on the screen, right? So think about that lens as your goals. Your goals are the lens that you look at every decision you make and everything in your life, right? So if I don't have any goals, I'm going through life like this. I have no idea where I'm headed. But if I have specific goals and I know exactly where I'm headed, I know what I need to say no to, I know what I need to say yes to, and I know when something comes across my plate, if that's an opportunity that I should jump on because it serves me and it serves my goals and it's going to take me to where I want to go. So your goals need to be super specific because you need to know where you're going, and they also need to be the lens that you view every opportunity and every decision you make through. Hopefully, I wanted to be a teacher. I can't teach anybody anything, but hopefully those examples made
that was good.
Get it.
I thought that was really good. That was a great across. Teaching moment. Yeah.
Ask John. I am the metaphor king. That's all I can. Yeah. I can only teach through metaphors. If I can't find something or like liken something to something else, I can't get my point across.
No, that's great. It's a great way to teach stories from relatability.
Yeah.
I think on that note, let's end it.
Yeah. This was a short and punchy one today. Just setting your goals, but yeah, let me hit the record button. See you guys next week.